Okay, so here's our micro lecture for today, which is giving us a couple bits of grounding for this entire class. And then we're going to jump in and code a tiny baby website to get a feel for things. In this class and in web design in general in the world, there are three languages that all websites at the end of the day are coded in. The first language is called HTML, which stands for Hypertext Markup Language. HTML is the base language in which we define the content, so like the words and the images, and I want to say more importantly, their structure. So HTML, when you hear HTML, I want you to think structure. HTML, structure. I kind of want to get a chant going. So HTML structure, you feeling this? So in addition to just having the content defined within it, HTML is all about saying, this is a heading, this is a paragraph, this is an image, this is a list. It's called a markup language because the code that we're going to write marks up, it kind of annotates or describes the content. So there's lots of stuff that, lots of structural elements that we can define in HTML, and these are the things that we're going to learn in the next couple weeks. Learning HTML is relatively easy. It's just learning what are the predefined structural elements and what's the right way of using them. So this is the kind of the, in my mind, the easy part, but it's the foundation. You cannot have a website without HTML. The second two things that we're about to introduce, which is CSS and JavaScript, aren't technically required, but any modern website would have them. Okay, so HTML is about defining structure. It also includes the content, but it's not just content. It's the structural relationship of the content. So more on that in a bit. Our second big language is CSS, and CSS stands for Cascading Style Sheets. And that second word tells you what this is all about. So CSS is all about the style, which is to say both how do you lay out the page, like this box is here and this box is here, and then there's like a 3-column thing here and then a big full width thing here. CSS is going to define layout kinds of things. It's also going to define style in the sense of I want this text to be this color, and I want this box to have this background color, and I want to use these fonts at these font sizes. I think the way the author talks about this is presentation and layout. So presentation meaning the font sizes and the colors and the italics and how much space is in between lines and lots of stuff that you would find in like if you were in Microsoft Word or Google Docs, in that tab across the top, like that bar that lets you modify all the colors and sizes and stuff. So CSS is a language for defining all of those stylistic properties for the web. Also included in that, which maybe you could imagine is different if you want to, is layout. So how are the columns and kind of rows of the site defined? So CSS is going to do what you might call, or what I might call, micro design and macro design, the small stuff and the big stuff. So CSS, if you have to do it in one word, you might just say style. You could say design. You could say presentation and layout. All those are, to me, good words that describe it. These are the author's 2 words, I believe. The third language is called JavaScript, and we're not going to cover much JavaScript in this class. Unlike the previous 2, JavaScript is a real programming language, like Python or C or Go or Rust. And JavaScript then is least necessary, but maybe it's the coolest because JavaScript defines behavior or interactivity, usability, background communication, functionality. So because JavaScript defines behavior, it allows websites to do fancy stuff. Like the fanciest stuff that sites do, I'm going to say it's not necessarily about visuals, but about the site actually doing something. So a lot of examples of this, maybe the simplest one. Let me start with something simple. If you've ever filled out a form to create an account on something, and you type in your you type in your email, and it says, that's not an email. Probably something turns red, and it's like very angry sounding. There's a little bit of code written in JavaScript that knows the rules of what an email address is supposed to look like. And when you don't live up to that, it's immediately telling you, you did that wrong. So JavaScript, as we're going to look at it, just even a little bit in this class, is programs that run inside your web browser. And therefore, they're really fast because they're running on your computer. They're running really on the web page. You can also do stuff, and you've done it probably today, if you use Gmail or Facebook on the web. Anytime that you've got a system where you can click buttons and something happens, sending an email, posting a like, starring something, liking something, JavaScript is what's enabling that behavior. HTML and CSS are probably also at play, but that interactivity is created with JavaScript. You can also do the evil things with JavaScript, like, I don't know if you ever had this happen where there's a button, and as soon as your mouse gets close to it, it moves. Have you guys ever seen that prank? JavaScript is at play if you've got something like that. Okay, that's probably what I want to say about that. I really teach JavaScript fully in a class called Web Development, which is just for computer science majors, and we'll do some more JavaScript in advanced web design. But I feel like it's a little bit too much for this class. But HTML and CSS, especially CSS, is enough. So like to me, HTML is small. CSS is almost boundless because there's so much wizardry and magic that can be done with it. And I just feel like you could never master it. Okay, so for this analogy, which I found online, you can imagine HTML might be like a skeleton. It's providing the structure of your body. CSS is these kind of like the skin and the clothes that make you look super cool. And then JavaScript might be, this one's more the biggest stretch. It's like this nervous system with your brain that allows the thing to come to life and move and react to its environment. Does this kind of make sense? Okay. I would like to introduce, just in this one picture, and we're going to talk more about this later, the way that the internet works. There are clients and servers. The server is the computer that holds the resource. In our case, it's typically a website, a file, a web page, or images, CSS files, HTML files, JavaScript files. And the clients are phones and laptops and watches and computers. I noticed that the communication model is through requests. The client sends a request, the server does some work, and sends back a response. So the web, this is the fundamental architecture of the web. There are clients and servers, and the clients send requests and get responses. Generally, the servers don't just send stuff unannounced, unrequested. You with me? So this is the way the internet works. We talk about clients. We're really thinking about web browsers in this class. So Chrome, Safari, Edge, Firefox, Arc, Brave. Those are web browsers, which are just the, I guess they're the client. They're the software that's running on the client computer. Sometimes the word client refers to the hardware. Sometimes it refers to the software, so it could go either way. And the same for the server. The server is a real computer, and if there's also special software running on that computer that knows how to speak this language, receive a request, send a response back. And that's also called a web server, the software as well. I think here's the books example. When you type in apple.com or fhu.edu on your device, which is a client in a web browser, it's going to send a request to a server that's somewhere in the world. And that server is going to find some resources like some files, HTML, CSS, JavaScript, some images, send those back to you. And then your browser is going to render it. Render means take all that text and images and make it look pretty like you want it to. So doing that conversion. Certainly, there can be lots of different kinds of devices that ask for resources from a server and get responses back, like tablets and even headphones. You've seen this before, like a million times, and also we just ignore it. But I want you to know what this URL, it's also called a URI, a Uniform Resource Identifier, kind of what the parts are typically. The first bit that comes before the : is the protocol. A protocol is really just like a language. It's a set of rules for two parties to interact. Protocol, you with me? So we have a protocol where if I walk up to you and extend my hand, what are you going to do? He's going to extend his hand back. So that's the rule that he knows. That's from the culture that we have. HTTP is a computer protocol that says this is how computers that are talking the hypertext transfer protocol talk to each other. Typically, you don't have to type that, but it has to be there. You usually see almost any legitimate website these days will do that communication exchange securely, and there'll be an S at the end here, HTTPS. And really just what that means is all of the messages that get sent back and forth, the web pages, are encrypted. So you can't see what they are. Somebody in between you and the web server can't see what they are. Okay, next I'm going to jump to this domain, the domain name. So every entity in the world that has a website has to register with an internet registrar and make sure that they have a unique name. And this is called the domain name. This is Freed Hardeman's, FHU. These are called top-level domains. The most common top-level domains, that's just the end of the domain name. The thing that comes after the dot are things like .com, .net, .org, .gov, .edu. Now there's like hundreds of them that are crazy. Like I saw there was a .ninja, and I really wanted to get keen on .ninja, but they charge $60 for it. Whereas typically you can get a domain for like $5 to $10 that are the more standard. It is the case though that like every 3-letter domain has already been taken, even the terrible ones, just because it's that valuable to have shorter domains. But later in the class, we may, I'll go through the process of buying a domain and connecting it to a site. But because those actually have to be globally unique and somebody has to make sure they're unique, there can't be two FHUs.edus, because then which one would we mean when we type it into the URL? Because they have to be unique, somebody's got to oversee that. So you've got to pay money to register those. So FHU.edu is actually the domain. If you want to get more specific on a domain, you actually will put the name of like the server, is how I would like to think about it, which you could call a host. So this is really like, traditionally, www is the name of the web server, the server that hosts this organization's website. And that's why usually you would type in, historically, www.domain name to get just the web content. Now that the web is like the main way that we use the internet, like it's not just for emailing, but for the web, browsing is the main way we use it. Usually you don't even need the www anymore, and just the domain will give you the website. But this you could also call this a subdomain. So it's a way to break down the piece. So if you ever notice, if you go to gmail.com, it'll redirect you to mail.google.com. So that mail is saying, hey, go to the go to the mail server of Google. But you kind of tell it, this is sort of backwards from the way you might expect. The sub piece comes first before the main name. Maybe that's a little bit akin to, I don't like that analogy. Never mind. Okay. There's often slashes, and slashes separate the different parts. And I'm saying the rest of this is typically going to be a path. And by path, I mean a set of folders and files that exist on the server. So this says, just like on your computer, there's a news folder, and the news folder has a 2024 folder, and that 2024 folder has a next.html file, a file that's called next.html. And we're requesting that particular file from that folder, from the web server of the fhu.edu domain. That's what we're saying in this URL. Does this kind of make sense? And this will be relevant because when we preview our websites, we're going to preview them in a little local web server that's running on your computer. So your computer's web browser is going to be talking to your computer's web server. It's really fast. Talking to yourself is very efficient. I don't know if you've noticed. So basically, there's no internet, but it's replicating what really happens. So one programmer on your computer is going to talk to another program on your computer. And so therefore, you're still going to have a URL to talk to the program on your computer. Whenever your computer is talking to itself, it's going to use the word localhost. So localhost is a special name that always means your computer talking to itself. All right, more on that later. This is a URL. I hope this wasn't like too much, but I think it really is helpful to understand kind of what's going on here, because this is a fact of all web reality, is that you're specifying the name of all resources using this system: protocol, subdomain, or host, domain name. Apparently, the fancy word for both of these is authority. I looked this up last year. I'd never heard this before, so I'm trying to help you be better than me. I don't ever hear anybody call that the authority, this whole first part. And then I want to call the last part the path. Demo time, baby. All right, so we're going to open up Visual Studio Code. And when I open mine, it looks like this. This should have been our icebreaker today. I'm going to have to ask it anyway. Are you light mode or dark mode? How many light mode people are we? It's okay. You can do whatever you want to. Light mode? You prefer light mode in your environments? Any dark mode? Any dark mode prefers? Okay, good. I'm not going to say I don't judge you, you light mode people, but come on, man. So I'm willing to switch to light mode. It is better on the projector, but I don't want to, because dark mode is more beautiful. Yeah? Okay, so I think I may have some more extensions than you have. This is the extension bar here on the left, or not the extension bar. This is like this sidebar. I think the first 5 things probably show up on yours. If you click it, you can see there's the Explorer, which you can see the current folder you have open and the files that are in that folder. At the moment, I haven't opened anything, so nothing's over there. There's a search in this sidebar. I'm going to skip over this for now. I bet you don't have that either. But you should have extensions. This extensions looks like Tetris to me. So this is a way to add more features to VS Code than it came with. I bet that's the 3 you have, right? You have this one, the run and debug? Oh, cool. So if you're running code in VS Code, they'll give you this guy, and it makes it easy to run code like Python or other languages. We won't be using that in this class. Okay. Let's just do it. Let's just do it the right way. All right, let's go to extensions. And in this extensions, look for something called Live Server. It's this first one for me. It's by, you can see, you can click on it. Some guy who is a hero among heroes named Ritwick Day made this extension that makes it really easy to launch a live web server just on your computer and preview the changes that you're making. I noticed that it has 58 million downloads. That's a good sign. If you're like, there are probably some bad extensions that aren't that good, and maybe you're right to be a little bit cautious of installing software. But when they've got millions of Downloads, that's a pretty good sign that this is legit. Microsoft has a lot of kind of authoritative, verified extensions as well, and I would say those are definitely all safe. You can see this one. I think Live Preview does the same thing as this, but everybody uses this one. And you see this has got 58 million downloads, and Microsoft's only has 7.6. Microsoft. Okay, so if you click on this, you can click on this blue install button. I don't have it because it's already installed. Do y'all see that? You can probably, if you click on it here, there'll be an install button here. Did that work for you? It may say you have to restart extensions. Did it say that? No? Yes? Okay. Some extensions you have to restart, like the environment. This one may not be that one. Okay. So everybody's got this live server? All right. I think when you do that, you'll get this new button down here that says Go Live. Do you see that? I don't know if it requires a restart. You see it. Okay. So this is what we're going to do. Is everyone listening to me? I want to say something that's really important. And it's something that we're always going to do. And then you're not going to do it. And something's going to break. And you're going to ask me what's going on. And I'm going to say, did you open a folder? That's the thing. And you're like, I don't know, I think so. And then you didn't. And I'm going to be like mildly annoyed with you, but also like understanding. And you're going to be annoyed with yourself. So always open a folder. If you open a file on your computer in VS Code, it doesn't know the context. VS Code wants to know the context. And for a web site, it's just the folder. So open the folder. Once you've opened the folder, you can open the file. But if you don't open the folder, some weird things can happen. So I'm going to say open folder. That is, if I'm an Explorer, I can say open folder. I can say file, open folder. You with me? Am I going to open a file? I'm not going to open a file. I'm going to open a folder. Open folder. You feel me? We're opening a folder now. So I'm going to say open folder. On my computer, this is going to bring up the Mac interface. On Windows, this will be the Windows interface. I'm going to go to the folder where I put all of the stuff for this class. Because I am not a completely unhinged maniac, I don't put everything on my desktop. But if that's who you are, I just want to put a little bit of pressure on you to be a little bit more organized. Because as you make more and more things and your desktop gets cluttered, it can be hard to find stuff. I have a folder called CIS211, Intro to Web Design. And I'm probably going to have another folder that's called like classwork. You can organize your computer however you do. I just think just organize it, okay? Like a little organized. But the first step in our making pretty much any website, actually, is going to be making a folder and then opening that folder. You could make it through the Windows Explorer Finder interface, make a folder, and then open that folder. I usually just say open folder and then make the folder here. You with me? So I'm making this one that's called, maybe I'm going to call this day one demo. You could call it whatever. This is just a first little throwaway website for us to try doing things. So I'm going to say create. Notice when I created it, it went into the folder. So I have gone into this new folder that I've made. Yeah, I made a folder. I chose this folder. And when I say open, I'm opening the folder that I just chose. If you do this right, then the name of the folder will appear right here, upper left. You see that? So this shows you the name of the folder that you've made. And at this moment, this folder is completely blank. There's nothing in it. So there's nothing right here. I'm about to make something that goes there. If you opened a folder that already had stuff in it, you would see all the files here. So this is file, open folder. And then I'm going through my computer, choosing the folder, saying open. I've opened that folder. Is that good? Is that working? Questions? All right. we're going to make our first little baby website. What should we make this website about? Oh, I didn't come in with a plan. What are y'all passionate about these days? Chapel? Dating? What's some... what movies are y'all watching these days? Really? Is there any franchise? Like, you have a favorite franchise? Back to the Future. He's speaking my language. Okay, he spoke up. Thank you, OT. So we're going to make our baby website about Back to the Future. I'm going to right-click over here and say New File. This is the way I like to do it. There are many other ways of doing it. You could also click this button that says New File. You can also say File, New File. And these are all ways to accomplish the same thing. I like to do it like this by saying right-click New File, and now I'm able to type the name of it. Now, here's another important tidbit that might feel weird, but this is the way it is. It's just the way it is. So just do it, okay? Don't ask why, just do it. We always name, zoom in, we always name the home page of a website index.html. For historical reasons, this was the default name, and if you name your page, your home page, this name, then you don't have to say the name when you open up the URL. So when you don't say anything, it shows index.html if one exists. You with me? Sometimes students run into issues with this when they think things should just work because it worked on my computer. But if you name this Back to the Future.html, you can make it work, but you have to type in the whole thing. Well, I guess cross that bridge when we get there. I'm going to press Enter, and now I have created this index.html. Did you follow that process? So just right-click, New File. Do not put spaces in the names of HTML pages. The web doesn't handle spaces in file names well. Just don't do it. Like, it's possible to do it, but it's really gross. Just don't do it. Typically, web browsers don't distinguish between uppercase and lowercase. So just put it all lowercase is the convention. It'll work, but you couldn't have index.html lowercase and index.html uppercase. The web browser would think they were the same thing, or the web server. Does that make sense? So just don't mess with case. And also don't put in weird symbols like pretty much don't put in anything except an underscore or a dash. But if you can avoid that, avoid it. Just squish the words together if it's multiple words, okay? Okay, so I've created index.html. Index.html. So we're going to, in this really brief way today, learn the basic skeleton of a web page. We're going to get just a taste, like an appetizer, of HTML and CSS. And then we're going to spend many weeks learning all the details of this. So if it feels overwhelming, it's okay. This is just the intro. So we're going to use what I call angle brackets, these less than, greater than, but in our case, they don't mean less than, greater than. They're angle brackets, and they're generally going to come in pairs. And we're going to use these pairs of angle brackets to define tags. A tag is how we denote the structure of a page. So I'm going to say everything that I'm writing is HTML. So I've got open HTML and then close angle bracket. And I think this happened on your computer too. Didn't it put in this /HTML for you? Okay, so VS Code knows the rules of HTML, and these are called tags. In HTML, tags come with opening tag and closing tag. A closing tag looks just like an opening tag, only there's a slash at the beginning. And because you almost always need these in pairs, VS Code just writes it for you, which is really helpful because they need to be balanced. So just go with me. Will you go with me on this? You're going to go with me. This isn't perfect HTML, but we'll get there, and this will be fine. All right. The two main things that are in every HTML document are two things that you have: a head and a body. So just like a person, we're going to have a head and I'm going to come down here. Outside of the head, we're going to have a body. So this kind of, I've indented, VS Code has helped me indent. The indentation kind of helps me keep up with the structure. Does that make sense? So this HTML, notice when I click on the opening tag, it highlights the closing tag, which I really love. This HTML document has a head and a body. The information you put on in the head section doesn't appear in the browser window. What you put in the body does appear in the browser window. So one main thing we put in the head is called the title. So again, these are in angle brackets. These are tags. We've got opening title, closing title tag. And what we put in the title is what appears on the tab in your browser. So if I can swap over here, you see up here, up right here, you see my mouse? You may not be able to read it, but this says Visual Studio : IDE code editor, ... You see this? What appears up here in the tab, that text, is whatever you define in the title, which is in the head of your HTML file. All right. What's in the body is what the content that appears. So I'd like to say Back to the Future. And I'd like to say this is an amazing trilogy. I don't have a great plan for this web content. We really should plan something before you just start making it. And maybe it has 3 movies, right? So we have the aptly named Back to the Future, Back to the Future 2, and I think I'm going to copy paste this, Back to the Future 3. So just making up some content, so there'll just be something in here now, and on the whole, this isn't going to be a website that we really publish. But I do really appreciate you guys following along, because I think that's where the learning happens, is even if it just feels like you're just typing in what I typed in, I promise you, that helps us get it inside our brain. Okay. I think we have enough now to launch our website. Let me show you this. When you're in Visual Studio, do you see this big white dot right here instead of the plus, the X? You see the dot? We don't like the dot. We're going to make the dot go away. Dot means you have not saved your work yet since the last time you made a change. To make the dot go away, you can say File, Save. But if you want to save a lot of time, just be in the habit of Control-S, Windows, just Control-S as you do your work. Save, 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 or Command-S, Command-S. There's probably a way to turn on autosave, but I like to be in control. So Command-S.
Right there.
Command-S, Command-S. So I'm constantly saving even without thinking about it. And sometimes when you launch your website, you're going to see the last thing that was saved. Sometimes students are like, where's all the stuff I did? And I'm like, I don't know. It doesn't. Yeah, your code, that's not what's showing up. It's not what your code is saying. Oh, wait, you didn't save it. All right, so after we've saved it, I'm going to click this Go Live button. Do you see this Go Live button? Does everybody have the Go Live button in the bottom rightish? So we're going to click it, and what it should do is start a little web server, a baby web server on your computer, open up a web browser, and browse to that web server's page. And I'm going to split this so we can see both. If you look at the URL here, you can see a bunch of numbers that look magical, But this, if you see it, it's going to say 127.0.0.1, which is the special IP address that means your computer. So that's always your computer's IP address from your computer. It's the same thing as localhost. That's what they chose to do. I don't really want to look at this URL. Notice this is the content we typed in, but it looks gross. It's all one sentence. This is so disappointing. All right, and here's what I wanted to show you is that HTML, right, is all about the structure, but we haven't defined any structure. We just put in these 5 sentences. Even though they are on different lines in our code, the browser doesn't care about spaces. It's just going to line everything up together unless you tell it these are different structural elements. And I would like that. I would really like this right here to be the heading, like the top title for this site. And to do that, and we're going to learn all the details of this later, but it's not too much to learn today, I'm going to put in an H1. H1 means heading level 1. So note this is the beginning of the H1 and the end of the H1. And I would like to say all of this text right here is my H1. So I'm just going to click and drag. You could cut and paste, click and drag. But now I've said here, that sentence, Back to the Future, those words are the heading 1. Yeah? And now as soon as I save this, my browser is going to auto-update and show me what it looks like. And so notice now when it's updated, this is the default styling, which we can change later, but by default, heading 1 is the biggest font size and it's bold. And then heading 2 is a little bit smaller, and it goes down to heading 6. Everything else is like a paragraph. But maybe we'd like to say these actually are paragraphs. The way to say that something's a paragraph in HTML is with this P and /P tag. So I'm going to take this, my sentence, this is an amazing trilogy. I'm going to cut it, Command or Control X, and then paste it with V. And notice by making this a paragraph, now a paragraph does take up a whole line. And it also has some space above it and below it. Does that make sense? So I'm just introducing a couple of the basic tags or structural elements today, but they'll be covered in the chapters later. Last little thing here, I really intended this to be like a listing of all the movies. And let's just say for now, I'd like to make that a bulleted list. The way to make a bulleted list in HTML is to make something called an ordered list. An unordered list. Right? I'm saying, I guess it is kind of ordered actually. I wanted to make an unordered list. Let's do both. I'll show you. So to do that, I'm going to say UL. So this UL means unordered list, which is a fancy way of saying this is a list that has bullet points. To make my bullet points, I'm going to create elements called list items, which is shortened to LI. So I'm going to say LI. Notice my LI and my /LI are inside of the UL. So that will always be the case. I'm going to go ahead and copy this and paste it twice so that I have 3 list items. And you can see right here, I'm already getting, after I saved it, these 3 empty bullet points. You see that? I'll zoom in over here. Oh yeah, if you don't, the Command plus and minus or Control plus and minus will let you zoom in and out on both your web browser and Visual Studio Code. So I'm an old man and I like my font size to be a little bit bigger than the standard. And that's one way I can do that. When I'm in class, I make it even bigger than I do in my office. So this Command plus and minus, you see, you can change this. Command Z, no, that's not right. That's the way to change that. All right, last little bit of content here. I'm going to cut this, paste it, cut this guy, paste it. Sorry, I've kind of run out of time. Cut this, paste it, save it, boom. So now we've made a website, very basic web page. It only exists on your computer, but moving this to an actual web server actually is not that hard. And even if this were on the real internet, on a real web server, it would look just like this in your browser. I want you to get your money's worth. So let me show you one more thing. if I go to the top of my document, the head, and put in a style tag, I can write CSS right here and change aspects of this. And something I'd like to do is I would like to say that the font family is Arial. Hang on, I'm doing something wrong. What am I doing wrong? Okay, we'll do this next time. This is what I'd like you to do. I would like you to read chapter 1, the actual chapter 1 in the book for next time. I believe that's called something like structure. Yeah? So read chapter 1 for next time, and I will reward your reading by giving you a quiz, which could be a Kahoot, or it may be a paper-based quiz. I'm not sure. Let me see which way I like to do better. Kahoots are kind of more fun, so we may do that. So it'll be like a 6-question Kahoot. Do you know 6 basic things from chapter 1? All right? I hope it's a great weekend. Look forward to seeing you soon.